What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into tonight's picks. And there's a few of these I looked at in good detail before because it's Larry Bird's birthday today. Pacers, Wolves, Celtics, Suns, Indiana State. They should be interesting games. That being said, I was looking at these games yesterday, and the ones that I liked off the bat, this was the first one, and it's moving further and further in favor of Memphis. The line's moving if you're picking Memphis against the favor of Memphis, because I think it was around 6.5 last night. But I like Memphis for the simple reason OKC is above average, not even above. They're above typically where your number one team would be against the spread. Both them, Sacramento, are unrealistically, they're at a pace where they just usually you don't see teams finish this well against the spread. And again, playoff teams typically finish above 500 against the spread. So Memphis could improve to 12-12, and I do think they do. I think a lot of people are going to fade them at the 8 points. SGA has been killing it, and it hasn't just been him. They've been shooting the lights out. Dort makes a difference, obviously, but being out. But I still think people are going to take the Thunder pretty hard, and I think the Grizzlies beat them pretty good. Now this one's a second leg. I go over all this stuff in the Discord, but this is going to be the second leg of a sequence. So we bet the first leg last night. That was the Lakers, who did not win. So speaking of the Lakers, looking at this one, 12.5. I feel like this one is a sucker's bet. And you can see how bad the Lakers are against the spread. But they were much worse. 10-14 would not be something that's absurd. So while normally I would take the metric 100% of the time and take the Lakers with 12.5, thinking, well, they still got Westbrook, they still got guys, they got Reeves, Bev is probably going to go. They're the Lakers, they're getting 12.5. It's easy to think that way, but honestly, I think they're just going to explain away why they need Anthony Davis, or at least him or LeBron. Without both of them, I think they get completely roasted. It would be interesting if they won without him, right? But I think the 12.5 is way too appealing for the Lakers, so I like Toronto minus 12.5. I think way too many people, in my opinion, are going to be taking the plus 12. So I like the Raptors to cover that. This one, I simply like the over. For the reason I've been liking it. Clippers need to improve a little bit more on the over just to get to the lowest a team's finished in a while. So they're still incredibly abysmal on the over. And just from historical metrics to work, they should win, I think, a few of the next overs. I think their last game went over. So I'm not saying they're going to get a bunch of overs, but I don't see them getting 2-3 unders again in a row. So for that game, that's who I like. Now this one's interesting. It's on ESPN, and there's two narratives going. So these are all first sequences, by the way, outside of the Grizzlies. There's two narratives here. The one is Trae Young owns the Knicks, right? And now the other one is we have a new Knicks team. Now, I think, again, they want to establish the Hawks as a really good team. But I also think they want to establish the Knicks as a play-in team, like I've been saying. I do find it odd, even at home, that the Knicks would be favorites. Now, I think they won the first game. No, the Hawks did win the first game. Okay. So, again, this one has very conflicting narratives. So Trae Young won game one in New York. I think in this case, especially because the line's -2 for the Knicks, I think what happens is Trae Young does a lot of the logo threes and has a really good performance in a losing fashion. That's just my gut. I know they just lost to the Thunder, and a lot of people might be thinking they're definitely going to bounce back. But on ESPN, I think they want to showcase the Knicks. So I think laying 2 points is also kind of trappish. So I like the Knicks to cover the Hawks here. But I think Trae does have a good game. Wizards Bulls, I'm not playing just because I feel like it's got such trap. I feel like this one's just going to be indicative of public action. The Bulls have been a really tough read this year. I will say with 5 points, if you're playing this game and you ask me who, gun to head, who I would have to pick, I would go with the Wizards to cover. Because, again, I think they're going to have the Wizards and Knicks do better this year than people think. But it's not what I'm personally playing. Kings Bucks the same, because we have two teams that are really good against the spread. So one's slightly better than the other, but it's not one that I'm going to be taking. Just because, again, I feel like this is another type of game where you can easily have Milwaukee blow them off the court, or like they've been doing all year, the Kings could spoil. So I'm not playing that one. This one I am playing. This one is an extension of, we lost Gonzaga, which makes it a leg 3 now. And it's the Wolves. And I liked the Wolves at the beginning, and then I realized that they were going to be, it's Larry Bird's birthday, and I was like, oh no, what if they have his teams win? And then I realized, after Steph Curry won, they were all like, yeah, this means Bird's not in the top 10. And they said it so casually. If you watch Bird play and don't think he's a top 10 player, or again, if we're assuming it's real, then I feel like you're just incredibly biased. I don't see how many lists could have this man not in the top 10. He was in the top 5 not too long ago. And even if you add LeBron, Kobe, he still wouldn't drop out of the top 10. But my point is, the media just dismissed him like, yeah, he's not a top 10 player now. Curry's better. So they never really gave Bird the best treatment, I don't think. Of course, they made him look nasty, and they all have great stories. But they have certain stars look better than others, and Larry Bird was one I always felt like more akin to Kobe, kind of. They always had, as good as they were, they didn't want them to be the guys. So I do think that Bird is since he's not loved by the NBA, not to go on a tangent, but I don't think he's going to, all of his teams are going to win on his birthday. If anything, his teams would lose. That's what I basically came to that conclusion. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen. And then I combine that with the fact that the Pacers are 14-10 and the Wolves are 8-15. Again, so Pacers are about where a team would be towards the top of the against the spread spectrum, but the Wolves are way below, where they just can't finish at this type of pace. So that's why we pick so many of these different games, because a lot of these teams, they're just not going to finish at this pace. You could finish at a 500 pace, sure, a little below that. Typically, playoff teams don't. But some of these paces that we're seeing, specifically from the Mavericks and the Timberwolves, they just can't hold. So I like the Timberwolves there. Not playing the Pelicans game. And in this game, I think, and again, they're going to push the narrative that the Warriors suck on the road. I think everybody's going to be all over the Warriors with the 8. People might tease it up to 14, 15. And I think Utah creams them. Or there's no reason they should be giving 8. Public action is going to be all over the Warriors. And they're talking about how, again, they suck on the road. So that's why I love the Jazz. This game we typically play the Suns. We've had a good read on them. I will put out, since it's a late game, another video if I decide to play the game. Just because I know it's ESPN, it sounds fun, but I do my picks so people can make money, that are following me. So I don't want to give just a game where I think anything can happen. What I will say is right now I'm leaning under and I'm leaning Suns, but it's not, it's certainly not something I'm running out to pick. But I'm leaning them just for the reason, again, I think the under pace is due to hit. The Celtics, they've had a bunch of overs, and then I think people started pounding it over, and that's why I think their pace slowed down a little bit. And as far as the game, I think people are going to be on Boston more. Not because it's Bird's birthday, just because Boston, it's a better team. But I think the Suns, again, they want to establish that they're the best team in the West, and they're going to probably have the best team record in the West again. So it'll be interesting, but it's not one I'm loving. So to recap, the ones that I really do like is I like the Clippers Magic over. I'm staying away from the Nets. I do like the Knicks to cover. I do like the Raptors to cover that big spread. I lean Wizards. Wizards is fine as a first sequence. Wizards to cover that. And I like I did determine I like the Grizzlies a good bit here to cover this spread. as a second sequence. Staying away from the Bucks. I like the Wolves to cover, improve to 12-12 on the season, and improve on the spread. Staying away from the Pelicans, and I like the Jazz to cover. And I'll go more into the Suns if we do play that. But I just wanted to get all the picks out there that I did like. I looked really in detail into a lot of these because it was Bird's birthday, and there's other stuff going on today as well. But I usually just fall back on the metrics. So that's what I ultimately did with a lot of these games. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.